Welcome to WorkLifeCyber. Today I am going to take you through a few interview questions for cybersecurity. You know, the cool team, we do cool stuff. That's why I have my glasses on. So, first question, what do you understand about the Triad, the CIA Triad? Yeah, I'm kidding. Well, we are going to be talking about, let's get serious. Think of as, what do you understand about the CIA Triad? And with that, keep it very simple because you can tend to talk and talk and talk like I'm already doing. C, you just say, well, I understand it this way. C, for confidentiality, meaning we are confident of the information presented. We know that access to the information is only given to authorized users, meaning your work, the employees. It's not leaked. Not everyone can have access to the information, your information, or the company's information. Integrity is that the information given is hasn't been tampered with. It hasn't been changed. Like, it's not like, oh, because the CIO is like up there, he can just go in and change a few things to suit him, or external auditors are in and we can just change it to make sure that we don't fail audit. So we have there's integrity, meaning Jamal, the intern, cannot just go in there and change it whenever he wants, or cannot mistakenly just be typing Z because he fell asleep on Z and just started typing. No, it goes through a process before any changes is made. And the A is availability. Again, I'm using auditors or any stakeholder can have access to it with the right processes. They are available. Information is available if leadership needs it, if external auditors need it, if the feds need it, whoever needs it, we can provide it to them. Now, it sounds contradicting that, hey, we don't want to give access to just anybody. Yes, but availability means when the right authorities or right personnel need it, they have access to it. Hope it makes sense. Keep it simple. Don't talk too much or you will have to put your foot in your mouth later. Another possible question will probably be, not probably, it's possibilities, right? Another possible question is, how do you keep, another possible question is, how do you keep current on threats and trends? If you've been in cybersecurity for even school, you know that there is a trend that goes on and on and on and on until it's no longer there. Like a good trend is 0-day vulnerabilities. You will wake up and it's everywhere in the news that log4j has happened, or the Heartbleed, or SolarWinds. Anything has happened. Or, hey, now the hackers have a way to break into MFA. So we are no longer using MFA. The best way to do it is now Or you and I know that when we started, passwords were 4 keys. It didn't matter whether it was uppercase or lowercase. The more the attackers become strong, the more we are going to be stronger, right? So how do you keep up? And I said way too many things. How do you keep up with current trends and threats? You have to keep up as a cybersecurity analyst. And there's no wrong or right answer. So relax and feel confident. Well, I keep up by podcasts. I have a couple of podcasts, maybe mentioned too. Cyber Coders, Cyber this, Cyber Guy. To be honest, you can mention anything. Who's going to check, right? And if they check, trust me, they'll find something. Anyway, and then I am subscribed to various articles that come in periodically. I sometimes skim through. I am also part of communities in LinkedIn that discusses what's currently going on and how various companies, different companies, are dealing with what's going on. I also read standard publication, industry publications like NIST and all these wonderful things. Find some in your mind. So there's NIST.gov, there is HHS, I think. And then your company, if you already have experience, you know that your company probably sign you into all these groups, live groups, so you can say anything. You are subscribed to magazines. I am subscribed to a couple of magazines. I check on YouTube every once in a while to see what's happening in the system. So anything, find 2 or 3 ways that, because you cannot just say, oh, I read publications. They will know you're not serious, because you and I know that you are not going to get trends when you read publications. You will get the revisions and what's going on, but that's not enough. Another likely question is, how do you investigate a security breach? How do you investigate security breach? And this can be anything. Think of any security breach. It's the same process. So the first thing I do is immediately make sure that the breach is contained, meaning has it been affected? Is it the entire organization, or is it just a computer, a personnel, an account? And if that's the case, make sure that you contain it. Make sure that it's not going. That's the first thing you do. If Mrs. Williams has her password breached, well, what did the attacker get into? Has the attacker been able to get into all of our files? Has the attacker been able to get into a shared drive yet? Has the attacker taken anything in Mrs. Williams' name yet? Once you do that, you're containing it by kind of taking Mrs. Williams, or separating the breach item, account, system, network from the entire company. So you want to make sure that the system, the breach hasn't affected or is not spread into the entire organization. So whatever is affected, you're going to take it away from the rest, from the non-affected systems or applications. Then, once you do that, you contact the right people, or maybe it could be you who will be doing it. Maybe reset their passwords, or wipe the entire computer so that it's not reset the entire account so that it's not just to block the hacker, whatever it is. Or if you are not the one remediating the breach, you contact the right team immediately and see how it can be remediated. Once remediation is done, and you don't have to tell them how you're remediating, just say you contain. First, you make sure that the breach hasn't affected the entire organization by containing it, meaning you're separating the affected from the non-affected. 2, you do remediation, whether you are remediating or you contact the people who are supposed to remediate. 3, you do a post-test or post-assessment, post-remediation assessment. Once you do that, just to make sure that you have actually remediated it, and there are controls in it. You test controls to see if the remediation worked, if there's the breach is no longer there. After you do that, you're now going to check with policies, standards and policies, to make sure. Let's say Mrs. Williams left, the breach happened because Mrs. Williams left her computer unlocked and went home, or she's home but she's not using VPN. Make sure that there's a policy saying that if you're working remote, that there's a policy saying that all remote workers use the company VPN. So the final step is that make sure that there's a policy surrounding the incident, if there's not already a policy, because chances are there is a policy, but Mrs. Williams just didn't follow. And if there is no policy surrounding the breach or the incident that happened, then you contact whoever the policy owners to include it. And there's a process. You don't have to say that, but yeah. So That's the answer. I hope it makes sense. Contain the breach, separate it from the non-affected or the entire network. Remediate, whether you are remediating or you're contacting the team and making sure the team who are supposed to remediate are remediating. And then do a post-remediation assessment. After that, make sure there is a policy or standard surrounding the breach. How do you ensure security around data in transit and data at rest? This, I have had a number of people ask me this. It's very simple. Data in transit, think of transit as a train. You know, it's moving, it's going somewhere. What does VPN do? VPN protects data that's traveling. So travel, VPN. We set TLS and VPN, encryption through VPN or TLS for all our data in transit. And then I ensure controls like passwords, complex passwords, MFAs are in place for data at rest. Another possible question is, how do you approach risk in cybersecurity? Now, don't confuse yourself if you are a third-party security analyst trying to become a cybersecurity. It's two different things. This one is really talking more of threats and vulnerabilities. So what you would do to approach risk in cybersecurity is this is an interview. I approach risk in cybersecurity, one, by assessing possible threats or vulnerabilities. Then I will use that to categorize applications or systems into likelihood. So I do that. I approach risk by assessing the system to see the likelihood of a threat or a vulnerability, how high it is for a threat or vulnerability to be exploited. And you do this by scans and things like that. And you use Tenable and all these things to scan. So you have a tiering system that says that this application, there's the likelihood after you do your scanning, right? So just keep it simple by saying you do that by assessing the likelihood of a threat or the likelihood of a threat or vulnerabilities being exploited. Can you discuss your experience with network security and firewalls? Yes, I have experience with network security and firewalls, and this includes monitoring firewalls to ensure that there's no unauthorized or to prevent unauthorized access to our network and our systems. And also I do network configuration. I have experience with network configuration and network segmentation to ensure that when we are affected, it doesn't easily spread through our entire network. Because if you have any experience with network, then you are doing some form of network segmentation where we don't have just one network. If we are attacked, they can probably get to the first layer, or so maybe do some research on network segmentation in case they ask, because they probably will. But for this question, don't go into details. Just say, yes, I have experience with network security and firewalls. Network security by configuring the network and then putting some network segmentation in place so that when attacked, the entire network is not attacked. And then for firewalls, I monitor firewalls to make sure that we are preventing any unauthorized access to our systems or our networks. Simple. Don't overtalk, even though I am over speaking in this thing, but don't overdo it, or you shoot yourself in the foot. You put your foot in your mouth. Do you have any experience with cybersecurity frameworks? Have you leveraged any of them? Yes, So, two things here. If they say, do you have experience with cybersecurity frameworks? Then you just go ahead and you give your own example. If they give you, say, do you have experience with cybersecurity frameworks like, you still speak to it. It's the same concept, okay? Don't panic. So, do you have experience with cybersecurity frameworks? Yes, I have experience with frameworks like NIST, CIS, ISO, PCI, and I have leveraged controls from these publications or these frameworks to guide my previous company or to guide my current role company in writing policies, standards, acceptable use, AUPs, acceptable use policies, so policies, So you leveraged it to write to write policies and standards, and then you also leveraged it to select controls that guides the company, the role you're in. So for control selection and for policy writing. Can you explain how encryption works and how it can be used to protect data? Now, notice that these questions are all a bit technical. When you're applying to cybersecurity, they tend to be more technical. And these are real questions that I have gathered from my friends, from myself. So it is possible, And I don't mean to scare you. They do include a few behavioral questions, but cybersecurity position usually do put in quite a few tech stuff. Yes, I understand how encryption works. Encryption is transforming data to prevent unauthorized access or interception. Describe a time when you had to respond to an incident and how did you handle it? Now, this is similar to how do you handle incidents that we talked about. This one is different. It's the same thing as how do you handle incident, but this one, they want you to actually be specific. Was it data breach? Was it unauthorized access? They want you to say something that you actually did. So you will say, and this can come into, this can be the same one that I said, but being specific as well. So yes, in my previous role or in my current role, I was called to respond to unauthorized access to one of our accounts. Now, keep it to accounts because network remediation for network access, unauthorized access to network is way different and way more complex than just a personal account. For interviewing purposes, just say the incident was that I was called to respond to an incident for unauthorized access to an account, Mrs. Williams' account. So I quickly blocked, reset Mrs. Williams' account to make sure that there is to block any unauthorized access, because in this case, it has been exploited. It wasn't that her account was tampered with or attempts were made to Mrs. Williams' account. This time, there have been an unauthorized access to Mrs. Williams. She was typing in her Teams, and this actually happened. She was typing in a group Teams, and then she started swearing, but it wasn't her. She saw that her mouse was actually not her mouse, her typing thing was moving and saying, F you, you people, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it was hacked. So I quickly blocked the unauthorized access by simply changing Mrs. Williams's account, like stopping it, or resetting Mrs. Williams' account. And then I quickly investigated to see if the attacker has done it to anyone else in the company. And thankfully, it was just Mrs. Williams at that time. So I blocked Mrs. Williams's account from accessing any of our networks, any of our shared drive, any of our information, any of our data. And then we put controls. So that's the remediation. We block everything, we reset her account, we change her password and make sure that nothing else has been affected. And then we put new password, made it more complex password and controls like multi-factor authentication in place. And then we continue to monitor it to make sure that the controls we put in place are actually effective. Now, there are so many other questions that can pop up. You can leave comments and let me know what questions that you were asked in an interview that you couldn't answer or you need help answering. And you can also let me know if this was helpful at all and if I should continue, because I have like 100 questions just on cybersecurity. I just chose these ones because it's questions that has happened to me and a few of my friends that I constantly get information from. So good luck on your journey and let me know if what you are doing to get a job. All right, thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video.